He's the son of one of the most famous dictators who was killed by a NATO-backed militia in 2011. He was in custody of a militia group till June this year. Now the 44-year-old Saif Gaddafi has told the world that he's ready to quote-unquote defend his country, Libya, or die a martyr for it by making a comeback to politics. But who is Saif Gaddafi, and is his ambition going to be a cakewalk? 44-year-old Saif al-Islam Gaddafi is the second son of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, who was executed in a NATO-backed militia uprising in 2011. A PhD from the London School of Economics, Gaddafi Jr. acted as a public relations man and a de facto prime minister for his dictator father, and much like his father, was embroiled in many controversies, including a controversial chapter of forcible HIV trials in his North African country. He faced an arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity and captured by a militia group in southern Libya after the end of the civil war. Gaddafi Jr. was freed in June this year, but the ground situation in Libya is fluid. There is no real central government. There are two parliaments and various militia groups, and a United Nations arrangement to oversee the transition of the country from wartime to peace just expired earlier this week. So how successful will Gaddafi be? And importantly, whose backing does he enjoy? On the one hand, there's the UN-backed Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj in Tripoli, currently protected by an assortment of militia groups. The Prime Minister has met with the US President Donald Trump on at least 2 occasions. On the other, there's General Khalifa Haftar of the self-appointed Libyan National Army, which controls eastern Libya. If the UN arrangement on Libya is not extended, and if the various warring militia factions find no consensus soon, there's a real likelihood that the general could march into Tripoli and take over. Both the US and Russia have obvious stakes in the oil-rich northern African country. While the US President Donald Trump has taken the unusual step of meeting with the Libyan Prime Minister at least twice, Russia, Egypt and the UAE, as well as France, have all helped the two rivals, the Prime Minister and the General, come to a ceasefire agreement. Gaddafi is hoping to cash in on the weariness with war and public longing for the undoubtedly more prosperous times under his father, the dictator, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. His rule was stentorian and tyrannical, but life for ordinary citizens was far better. There was free education, free medical treatment and cheap petrol. Libya had no external debt and billion-dollar reserves. Just months before he was killed, Gaddafi had promised to ensure that all Libyan citizens have shares in the country's oil reserves. But will Gaddafi Jr. find it easy to replicate all those achievements without the tyranny? It's early days yet, and the election isn't due till 2018, but long-time Libya watchers point to the level of outside support as a signal. Business empires in many Western countries, including the United States, have had flourishing trade relations with the old regime. Russia has a military presence in Egypt. In other words, and like Syria, Iraq and much of the Middle East, Libya too is attracting global attention once again. It may not guarantee Saif Gaddafi a red carpet welcome, but friends in high places are usually an advantage.
Not anymore. Because the
Remember, Saif Gaddafi faces charges from the International Criminal Court, which basically means that he could be arrested if he chooses to leave Libya. These indictments include charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. And joining us this evening on the broadcast is Wolfgang Pusztai. He's a security and policy analyst. He's joining in from Austria, and he was also the former Austrian defense attaché to Libya itself. Wolfgang, thanks very much for speaking with us here at WION. Do you find these reports of Mr. Gaddafi Jr. Running for president, do you find them credible?
Well, at first, thank you for the invitation. Good evening from Austria. With regard to Saif al-Islam, you know, he had his share of the responsibility of the fight against the revolutionaries in 2011, including his share on many war crimes. He is a very polarizing figure. I think if he would really try to run for presidency, this would complicate the situation even more. There would be certainly some people in support of him, but on the other side, several others, by far more of the others, in particular people from the mighty city of Misrata and from several tribes in the east, they would give their best to kill him.
All right, and those reports that I've been reading, Wolfgang, say that he does have tribal support, that it is the tribes that are backing him. But do you think that's the only support that Saif al-Islam enjoys in Libya right now?
Well, according to my best knowledge, we could not say that there are a whole of tribes supporting him. Not even the old former loyalist tribes, the Rishifana, for example, or the Gaddafi are fully in support of him. There are a few people in Libya who are in support of him, mainly those people who had some more prominent roles within the old regime. They are certainly in support of him. But mostly of the others, they aren't. Libya has suffered too much under the Gaddafi regime, and most of the people certainly don't want to have him back, even if the situation right now is a very complicated one.
What about influence and backing from outside of Libya?
Well, in particular, if we have a look into Western Europe and into the United States, there are several businesses who would like to have Saif al-Islam or somebody like him back in charge in Libya, because he is the man they were making businesses with. He is the man who was the modern face of Libya, and some people believe if he would come back, that this would be again a great opportunity to continue with the business in the old way. Not necessarily in an illegal way, but nevertheless building up on the old contacts. From my point of view, however, this is not really realistic. I'm not aware that any major group abroad, neither in the West, nor in Africa, nor in the Arab world, is really in support of him. Most of the news right now are exaggerated by social media and are exaggerated by people from his former circle in support of him.
All right, but when it comes to Western powers like the United States, like France, do you think that there is an overarching consensus, at least when it comes to diplomatic relations, that Saif al-Islam stay away from power, or at least a powerful position within Libya?
Well, as long as he is indicted for war crimes by the ICC, by the International Criminal Court, there is no way that he could be accepted by the West, let alone by the United Nations.
But what about surreptitious backing?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
What about the backing if it's of the silent kind?
I don't see any particular backing of Saif al-Islam or of the Gaddafis with any of the countries in the West, not in Europe and not in the United States.